cool, sir. Mic test. That's nice.
Hello, everybody. What a crowd we've got.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not used to this. The normal scenario is me and Terry in the comfort of the four walls and just the two of us and one camera. So I'm pretty humbled. Yeah, it's nice.
Well, introducing Jim White of WhiteDetails.
Thank you.
I have been following Jim on YouTube for many years. Hands up here who follow him for many years and who's just here because they saw the crowd. That's pretty
nice.
Impressive.
That's good.
Impressive.
Excellent.
What I want to do is cover today is the man behind the channel, the social detailer, but with also a bit of an angle on what you've learned the hard way over many years to help anyone else who's interested in the social side of detailing, in terms of the social networks and YouTube particularly.
Sure.
And get to know you a little bit, because normally, you, as you say, you're used to talking to the camera. You get to say what you want when you want. If you don't like it,
Full
you can
control.
delete it.
Yeah. Edit. Clip that. Yeah.
Yes. And I talked to you last night, and the one thing which is really, really interesting is just saying how nervous you were about it, despite being, frankly, you've got 46,094 subscribers who normally watch you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we say when we're filming, we're in our own environment. It's our own little bit of banter, and you forget when you upload a video. It's going to numbers and usernames, and you don't. Today is justifying the hard work of what goes on behind the scenes, because it's so nice to hear the stories, and it's so great to see and hear the people and the usernames that follow WhiteDetails. And there's some people that bring up details and memories and jog my memory from a video from 2012, from the very, very early days of WhiteDetails, and details that I can't remember. I'm like, wow, that's people sort of know a lot about WhiteDetails, and it's very. It's amazing as a platform what it can do, and I just picked up the camera out of interest, we've all done the photo reports and pictures and case studies with hundreds of pictures writing about the job, but let's try a video, let's try something different, let's stick some audio. Thank you, Jeff. And here we are. And when I was asked, do I want to be involved today, I've enjoyed very much the last 4 or 5 Waxstocks, and the last 2 years has been, again, shaking hands, hearing the stories and meeting the people. And I didn't really have a second thought about doing this, because it's a nice day for me. I build confidence, really. It sounds odd, but here we are.
Here we are indeed. Well, let's go back in time a little bit.
Yep.
You are 21 years old?
Yeah, I wish. When I started, I was 19, 20 as an outfit. 2009, I started. Having been a weekend warrior, I'm now 32. So
32.
Yeah, 11.
Still annoyingly young.
Yeah, sorry.
So you did sixth form college, and then you left and you worked for Waitrose. I
was part-time shop floor assistant. Didn't really have a direction from school. Stayed on year 12, year 13, and Waitrose. I was offered an ASM position, assistant section manager. It was a nice partnership to be part of. I enjoyed the social aspect of the people there. Went from there to an e-commerce desk job, sat doing imagery and training and sort of sales online. And
sounds really exciting.
Yeah, it pretty much. Yeah, and turns out full circle that my boss was a very good customer 5 years later. But from there, I went to a medical company doing a bit of patch testing, a bit of servicing, sales, delivery, driving, and got interested in cars. So passed my test, had my own first cars, interested in that. That developed and working on my friend's cars.
The point I want to make here is pretty normal. I mean, hell,
yeah,
I came
very similar story for everyone.
I had no idea what I wanted to do. Yeah. I don't think everybody here had a mission plan.
No.
And you go and work for Waitrose, which is rather nice. Most people we have to put up with that stuff, But you did that step, and then you got into detailing. So detailing really came with cars. The passion for cars came first?
Yeah, for sure. If I look back to now, we used to have 3 or 4 friends go around to my mate's house and get the auto glim out and get the t-shirts out and start slapping on products and prepping for an evening cruise, if you will, and it just developed from an interest in the cars and friendship. And then it was a case, okay, well, there's more to this. The detailing word for him, there's endless information on there to learn and pick up. And I was intrigued, I guess. And when I started the business, I'd been maybe 2 years, 3 years at weekends. Yeah, similar story to how everyone mainly starts. You're doing their friends' cars, your hairdressers' cars, their hairdressers' customers' cars. And I was in a good position where I was 19, 20 years old.
Did you have a really close relationship with your hairdresser? Or?
No, just an example, yeah. And I was at home, and so I didn't have mouths to feed. I had flexibility. I had no commitments or ties, so yes. I could. It was let's see how we go. April 6, 2009. WhiteDetails was launched, and the first 3 years were terrible, really. It was steady, it was a mobile service.
So it was terrible in terms of just lots of work and no money, or terrible?
Yeah, it was a big learning curve. Working mobile, as we know, is quite hard on people.
It's a physically tough job being mobile.
To go straight into a unit and the premises, the overheads were too much and it wasn't viable. But starting out as a mobile service, it was steady, it was quiet, just developing and building the brand, the name. And it's interesting today and last year and online, I get endless messages and DMs and private messages. People have taken the inspiration and setting up and going their own way and doing the detailing career and journey, but asking for advice. How do we get more? We're doing YouTube now. How do we get more views? How do we get more subscribers? Okay, well, cool. How long have you been set up? We've been set up as a business, ABC Detailing. Nice plug for ABC Detailing there, if that is a proper thing. We've been for 6 months, and they're thinking, well, why aren't we getting more views on the YouTube? So, before I did YouTube, I was going for 7 years, doing Instagram, forums, Facebook.
So
before I did the first video,
Rome isn't built in a day.
It doesn't happen.
To flick on your YouTube and see you there and thinking, cool, tomorrow I'm going to become a professional detailer, and the next day I'm going to have 50,000 subscribers.
No, it's not. There's a lot of people that it's not overnight, and I think some of the down parts of the job behind the scenes, it has been shown in previous videos where it is a bit glum, it is a bit tiring, and I've done a few collaborations with people previously where we touch on the mental side of things, and it is a lonely industry, and Terry's influence greatly helps.
Did you have a hero? I mean, when you were starting 10 years ago, did you have somebody who you followed, who you watched on social media?
There's a few people I've been chatting to last night at the trade dinner actually, and going back to the Detailing World when I used to post in the studio in the showroom on the Detailing World forums. There's names, and I was still learning. I was always sort of naive to it and trying to pick up the pieces and build. I'm still building. There's a lot of talent in this room, but YouTube as a platform has built this without me trying to, really. I've just been doing what I enjoy, building, creating videos, and it's built WhiteDetails brand to somewhere where I never tried it. It just organically.
Yeah, it's built momentum, so it's self-existing.
Yeah, so the industry is full of very, very talented people. There'll be dozens in here, and there are jobs that I won't take on. There's stuff that I've never been trained. I've never had a master detailing course. It's just been from trial and error, mistakes, and time and patience.
So let's do some quick fire questions.
All right. Okay.
What was your first car?
A J-Reg 1992. Is that J-Reg? Renault Clio RL, and it was a death trap. It was already lowered. It had a back box on it. It had big wheels, and I remember the recliner seat was snapped. So you put a bit of it. It was dangerous, and it was very exciting at the time.
And what's your current car?
Current car is my workhorse 320D Touring M Sport BMW. Yeah.
And the favourite car you've ever owned, the one that you regret selling, the one that you wake up in the middle of the night crying gently into your pillow about, or is that just me?
The car was here last year in, I guess it was, what's the colour? I'm usually quite good at colours, but the Jag, the XKR Jaguar, it was the 5-litre V8 supercharged. It featured on the channel. It was a short-term part sort of house deposit money investment in this car. And what a car. It was an all-round premium quality feel, power, noise, image. It was just a nice all-round. Maybe I was a bit young for it, but nice car.
Indeed. So when it came to detailing, was there a particular car where you felt you had an epiphany? There was one that you're kind of working on, and you suddenly it gave you that momentum in the first place to kind of carry on with it?
I guess not one car in particular. There's been a lot of relationships built with customers and clients that has been endearing and sort of kept me into it. Terry and I always discuss that the most pleasure we get out of the jobs are the jobs that are the 20-year-old high mileage normal everyday cars. It's not the £70,000 Audi RS7s. It's the transformations we can really get stuck into. There's an episode called Saving a Boxster, which was a really nice elderly couple that just had this car as a summer thing, and the car was pretty much trashed. And I wasn't going to film it. We were picked up halfway through the car and started filming. And what a transformation! And the lady's reaction was worth its weight in gold. It was priceless. So the brand new car details and the Aston Martins, on the most part, we don't get that fancy stuff through. We don't get the Ferraris, constant stream of Lamborghinis or McLarens. I'm yet to touch a McLaren. I've washed one, but never done a full sort of detail. That perhaps the location is part of that. But that said,
you're based near Lincoln?
yes, hour and a half, Lincoln, outskirts of Lincoln, in the middle of nowhere. So moving to the middle of nowhere in 2015, it was a bit daunting. I was like, is this wise? There's going to be noise problems. It's a bit of an unknown location.
Well, you can always detail tractors.
You could always, yeah, it was, but that's been answered in that people travel. We've had 17 cars from the same collector in Europe shipping the cars across for the treatment, and that was him seeing vlog episode 7 on a Miguelo Blue RS4, and I can remember his first initial email where it was polishing the exhaust box, and it was these areas which I wanted to start using the camera, because on a photo it's a still image, and I said to you last night that if a photo speaks 1,000 words, a video speaks a dictionary. You can educate, you've got more flexibility, you can cover so much more.
So going back to the technical side of what you do, I'm sure many people, because we certainly get asked, what camera do you use? What's your main primary video camera?
Upgraded to the Lumix GH5, it's on my left here now, which that's been a learning curve for me as well. I've always been sort of into photography, had a Nikon D90 SLR, and then with the first vlog, the first official sort of YouTube content, was a Canon G7X, which is a very sort of popular vlogger style camera. I've dropped it one too many times, and I've had wet hands one too many times, and the audio was corrupt. So there's been one or two. We had a 7-day job on a G-Wagon, a Mercedes G-Wagon, and it was a vast job. I really went to town on the editing and the footage. And normally with a week's worth of work, I would download the footage on a Monday night, check it, know where we're at for the story for Tuesday, download the footage, start the Wednesday. But the G-Wagon is just so much hands-on work. I saw it all end of play Sunday, not knowing that the audio all the way through is corrupt. So I'd spent 6 days, 7 days filming and making an effort, and the video's still out there, and I tried to narrate over the top of what I thought I was saying. The audio was just that corrupt and
you tried to dub yourself.
Noisy. Yeah, it was hard work. So that was a learning curve, and it's bits like that why I'm surrounded by great people, and today I've got some good help with, I'm laved up, and this is a bit beyond me. For the audio recording, but the Lumix, yeah, there's plenty of information out there, and the editing itself has been a learning curve. You're faced with the editing platform after 12 hours in the unit, and you sat down, cup of tea or a beer, and at first it's daunting, very daunting. If you look at the timeline of a 40-minute video, I've posted a few pictures on Facebook and Instagram of the ingredients of a vlog and how it's all stitched and blended together, and those that are involved in that industry will understand, and it's timely, very timely.
It is. I mean, we tend to do, when we're doing our videos, it's normally a day's worth of filming, a day's worth of editing makes 1 hour's worth of finished footage,
for sure.
if you're lucky.
So I'm silly with YouTube, the algorithm is 8 to 10 minutes is the watch time, really. If you want it, I'm not, people say, oh, you're the guy, you're the YouTuber. No, I'm a detailer who posts videos on YouTube. I'm not working YouTube as it ought to be worked. I should really step back and manipulate that or monetize it more by doing shorter videos. But
I mean, if you want lots of hits, what you do is like a 2-minute video, how to wash your car in 35 seconds using nothing more than a unicorn, and then you get loads and loads of hits, but nobody will learn anything.
Well, that's it. And when
unicorns aren't found.
You're faced with a 214,000 mile old Range Rover, and you can't tell that story in 10 minutes. So you have to, and these guys sit through it and watch it, and I hear some amazing stories. But that 30-40 minute episode is onwards of 14-15 hours sat at the laptop stitching it together. So that's in between trying to have a social life, the hands-on work itself, eat, sleep, work, edit, repeat on the most part. But we usually pick up the camera when it's a full transformation, when it's going to be a nice story, it's an interesting car perhaps, and sometimes it's absolutely impossible to film every single car. The owners would like that because it's a nice bolt-on to the service, because they think, great, I've got an archive of nicely edited portfolio of the car on YouTube, which I can reflect back and look on and share my friends. And I'm a fool, because if that could possibly happen if I was able to step back and pass the footage to somebody else to do the editing for them to create the vlog so I could enjoy some time away from it and actually have the vlog appear in my mailbox and then post it without the hard work. But then it's not my creation, it's not the personality.
It's not, but some people do that, and it does work. If you have like a working relationship with the editor, it can,
Yes.
it can work.
There's YouTubers, Peter McKinnon. I use Peter McKinnon as an example. He's got a team behind him now. And that said, I haven't seen the drop in quality because it is still his character. So maybe 2019, 2020, maybe that might be something that could happen.
Yeah.
Look into it.
Speaking of software, what software do you use to put your videos together?
Operate an Alienware R3 laptop, and it's Adobe Premiere Pro 2017 CC. But when I first loaded it, I was like, this is going to take some time.
Yes.
And I barely scratched the surface. It's maybe 5% of the program's ability. It's such an in-depth, scary program. I've tweaked and made my life easier with the dual screens and the setup, and again, you lose yourself after a weekend if I'm not out with friends or family. You can find yourself 3 hours or 4 hours just disappeared, and I've just started the vlog. So it's...
I mean, in terms of consumer advice, so if you're out there and you're keen to start going, the answer is you don't actually need Premiere Pro, which is a lovely piece of software. We use it a lot, but it's not the cheapest on the planet. Equally, camera-wise, a G7X is about, what, 700 quid or something of that order?
I think 500 quid, but you can use your phone. I started with my old desktop tower PC. Used to struggle because I got the drone involved, which is 4K footage. I've done a few episodes where I've solely used my phone as an example. It is possible. You don't have to have fancy gear and equipment, but the desktop PC ran Elements, Photoshop Premiere Elements, which is basically get out all the professional stuff of Premiere, and this is a basic version. It's easy to navigate. If people are saying, "Oh, what software should we be using?" My recommendation, if you're starting out, Premiere Elements is a nice introduction. It's user-friendly,
and it trains you for when you want to go into Premiere.
And you can advance forward. Yeah. So all the footage I was rendering every single edit I had to do on the old computer. So do one adjustment, it had to render for 2 minutes. Do one more adjustment. So I had to invest in the laptop. It's a powerhouse. It's a gaming machine, so it's full of power and processing. But that's more than covered itself in the sort of investment in YouTube.
I think a big theme here is patience as well. Again, it's very easy to suddenly come across your channel, particularly now how high it ranks, and think this is a sort of an instant win, when actually it's years and years of starting with your phone and then your G7 and then your fancy Lumix and starting with your Elements and then going to the Premiere Pro, and you've got to allow for that organic thing to happen. And it's the same in detailing. We get a lot of people come to us and say, well, I want to be a professional detailer and I want to be a professional detailer now. And you sit there and it doesn't matter how many training courses you do, ultimately there is a time served element to it. You need to practice, and it's the same with YouTube. I mean, the channel that we do, neither of us necessarily are born actors. I mean, he's very pretty and I'm certainly not, but it's taken a lot of practice to get there, to get the confidence to sit in front of people and talk.
It does, yeah, and that's, as I said, I've said to everyone today that it's people's opinions of WhiteDetails as the outgoing extrovert talking chap. That isn't me. If you ask any of my mates, I'm normally the quiet one, happy to not be in the limelight. But it's done me endless good. It really has. It's been a big personal business and personal gain, because it's. And some of my friends who aren't interested in cars, I didn't really think they followed WhiteDetails or support it. I'll get messages from them, and it's like, oh wow, that actually means quite a lot to hear from a drinking buddy who normally isn't bothered about WhiteDetails or the cars, and they're sort of just behind you, and just a bit of, like it was last night, I think. Yeah, it's nice.
So, if you had to give 3 top tips to somebody who want to get into it, what would they be?
Be patient with it. I've had a lot of people message and they're getting frustrated that it's not happening overnight. We said about that already. I think a lot of it for me, one of the main reasons as well is that as a potential customer, if I had again, £70,000 RS7, and I'm going to leave it with a couple of guys in the middle of nowhere, I want to know more about them. I want to find some trust and feel them as a person, and the vlog has allowed that to happen. So people already, hopefully we like this guy knows the industry.
So kind of be yourself. Try to reflect yourself and your person. Don't keep it too formal. I think there's lots of formal videos out there. But if you can show your character through, then people will warm to you. And then when they meet you in the flesh, then they're going to be more likely to give you that Audi RS7.
Yeah, sure. It was a big thing for me when that was started. patience, try and put yourself out there. I know it's not for everyone's cup of tea, but I kicked myself in my battles with doing it in the first place. If I've been able to do it and sit here today, then actually this is quite a big achievement for that. Going back to when I started 19, 20 years old, did I think I'd be sat here today? Absolutely not. And almost when YouTube was a thing, I'm not saying everyone should go out and do YouTube because it isn't going to work like that, but I'd already built a following, an audience on Instagram for 7 years before YouTube happened, so I had an audience to send information to. There's car care forums, Instagram platform, they're there for us to utilise.
Yes, it's cross-posting. Again, you were saying you had about 7,000 followers on Insta before you went to YouTube, which
I think it was, yeah.
Kind of kickstart on there.
Yeah.
And again, do work all the channels. The content you're making for YouTube, obviously, can go, or a minute of it can go on Instagram, or they have the IGTV with a very strange aspect ratio you have to learn.
No, I've not got into that. It's all new to me. That'll be all me.
But yeah. I'm sure young people can do it.
Yeah.
And then obviously Facebook and the good old favourites like that, and Twitter, I suppose, to an extent, still just about.
Yeah, but it made me think, what have I been messing about at for the last 5 or 6 years with marketing when YouTube just went boof? The reception from the first episode, an E46 M3, was that great. It inspired me to do a second one, a third one, a fourth one. We're now at 73, and I dread to think the hours behind the camera and the editing involved for 73 episodes. But in the last 365 days, there's been 18,000 new subscribers, and as a channel, it's nothing. It's tiny. 46,000 people isn't a great deal. A lot of you may have seen the Instagram post last night. Terry and I stayed at the Hilton here last night. I opened the curtains to the stadium and we saw all the seats, and it's always a nice visual to reflect on. Okay, well, asked Terry how many seats do you reckon? I'd guesstimate, and Terry, I think it was 70,000. My guess was 40,000, and there's 32,096 seats in the stadium. And when you think, okay, cool, 32,000, that's a lot of bums on seats, and we've got 46,000 people actively clicked to follow.
So quite literally, you can fill a stadium.
There we go, yeah.
Indeed, and I have to admit, on the stats I looked up this morning, you've had 4.16 million views, which is, that's an awful lot of people.
Thank you.
An awful lot of people. What I want to do now, and I'm guessing there might be a decent Q&A session, because when we were talking last night, we're thinking, maybe there'll be a couple of people turn up, but it's done rather well.
Okay.
It's going to be expensive. So, who has got a question? I'm going to come out and stick this thing in your face, and then you can ask a question, and hopefully we'll get some sort of an answer back again.
All right.
So, hands in the air.
Any questions, Terry?
Oh, there must be.
What we're working on tomorrow.
Here we go. Oh, fat man running. Here we go.
When are you putting my money up?
No. When we get 100,000 subscribers.
Any other questions? Here we go.
Hi Jim, huge fan from Holland.
Thank you.
You were talking about 1,500 hours of editing videos. How many hours go into the shooting of the video and the vlog itself?
Yeah, good point. A lot of the time, if we don't feel like picking the camera up, we won't, because it's been shown in the past that you can read how we're sort of mentally feeling. But stopping and starting the camera, changing batteries, memory cards, there is a lot of, to make it a seamless footage, you're constantly moving, and you've got a GoPro strapped to your forehead, you've got the Lumix, the G7X doing, some days we're more sprightly and perkier, and we want to film more, we're just in more of a better humorous mood. And I think, again, that comes across in the episode. So it doesn't detract from the car as such. That's why the main vlogs are the cars that we've just got the one job for the full week. So we can sort of not relax into it, but we've got more time. We haven't got to juggle multiple cars. That's one of my biggest fears. That's why there's just the two of us, just to take our time and make sure the job leaves with us both happy. And if we're happy, the customer's happy. On a daily rate, it may be half an hour's time out of the day, moving cameras, batteries, charging memory cards. The timely bit is at the desk at home. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey Jim, it's Sam.
Hi, sir.
Is there anybody that you watch that you recommend for us to watch on YouTube?
There's a lot out there. There's some great content in the industry. I tend to, when I'm not working on my own vlog, I tend to try and stay away from too much polishing and car care. I see it all the time, and watching us back on the editing is all gets. I watch, say, Peter McKinnon. He's the Canadian videographer, photographer, and the very first vlog of mine, if you know Casey Neistat in America, he's a tech entrepreneur. It was very Casey-esque because it was his production. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I like the photos, I like music, so perhaps do some research, spend some time, get the software. But then, yeah, there's some great people in the industry doing some great content.
As with some of these cars then, how do you assess what sort of condition it has? Or just done by video when the car might turn up from Europe, then you go, oh, bugger, it's
it's a good question. Sometimes people that are local within an hour, 2 hours, they're willing to drive to, let's have you assess the car before you take it on. We can give an appraisal of what might be best if there's a budget involved. But the cars that come in from overseas or the cars that are on trailers, there's no chance of viewing it beforehand. The white detail, the gold package which you see on the vlogs, we do as much as we safely can with what we're given. So there have been examples. From memory, there was a V550 Aston Martin in flat black, and the car was like in a bad way. It had chips and cracks in the sills, and you think this needs investment elsewhere before it has the detailing. But this was a car that came from overseas, so we couldn't really have that discussion beforehand. With the customer, with the client there in person, if it's a new car prep, I'll always like them to be educated to why it needs a polish, because it's a brand new car. Recently had a Range Rover, and they're questioning, come on, it's a £150,000 Range Rover, it doesn't need the polishing. Well, actually, if you look with the right eye, there's buffer trails all over the grills, the roofs, covered in marring, so it's not always the case of, it's not always possible to assess the car of the customer. They may not be there in person, but we do really, via WhatsApp videos, phone conversations, we try and be as transparent and, hey, this is the deal, as much as possible.
Here we go, I'm going all the way over here. This is like exercise.
Do you find that you've got a lot of returning clientele, or does it tend to be new customers?
Yeah, there's certainly return customers. Yeah, this week coming, there's a Discovery 4 return customer. He had previously a 5 Series Touring. He's changed that now for this Discovery, a new car. And then the back end of next week, there's a Carrera T, new car prep, which was done about a couple of years ago. So they're both repeat customers. Every inquiry, I'd say 99.9% of the phone calls, emails, inquiries are from YouTube. So it's been a great asset to building a client base. But if there's a percentage of new and old customers, I'd say actually it's more new customers than old.
Is ceramic coating worthwhile?
Oh, absolutely. It's perhaps the last 5 years, it's been maybe one of the biggest movements in the industry. The DA introduction, dual action polishers were one before that maybe, but what I'm using, I'm more than happy with. I'm today with the Kamikaze guys. I've used a few. There's tons out there. That's half the problem. That's half the battle. If I was to pick up a new car myself tomorrow, I'll definitely be putting a ceramic of some description on there. It's down to education to the customer that it isn't a be-all, end-all. It does need maintenance. It does need to be looked after properly. Sometimes the marketing sells the product as there we go, that's the car for 9 years, you're good to go, and it's not always the case. There's a lot of maintenance required. So if it's something you're new to and you want to look into, I'd certainly suggest doing a bit of research.
Just touched on Kamikaze.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I'm assuming you get endorsements from...
There's zero. I don't get paid, no. Maybe that ought to be a thing if Kai can hear me, but what I like about Kai's influence he's heavily involved, hands-on in the industry. He's not a salesman, he's behind the product, it's his baby, and he hasn't got big, over-exaggerated marketing claims about, you're gonna get a 7-year, 9-year warranty with this product. He lets the product talk for itself. One of the things people ask when they take a car away as a customer, they'll say, hey Jim, how long now is this going to last? Well, I reverse that to them to say, well, how long do you want it to last? This can be years if you look after it, the correct maintenance and the mindset to it. But if you're allowing the car to be washed incorrectly or down the road at the car wash, it's going to be a matter of washes. Yeah, that is a great brand. I've got some good networks, but I'm not paid by Kamikaze. No.
Hi Jim. Yes.
Hey.
Did you find it hard moving from a one-man business to introducing someone else? And did you struggle to find someone who had the same standards as you? Was that something really difficult?
It's been a big thing for me actually having Terry's influence. I never really sort of had a vacancy, and I'm not a businessman. I'm not in the right hands. WhiteDetails would be much bigger by now, and I'm just trying to. So there was never a vacancy available. Terry was a mutual contact for mutual people, and it was very natural how it developed. And he's a great guy, and his company, never mind the hard work and his determination and grit. And actually, if there is a white detail booking, we've got an RS6 to do. He's brought the standard up. There's 2 sets of eyes, there's lots of minds behind this. There's been some training, there's been some setbacks. We've never fallen out. There's sometimes a bit of rough singing from Terry's half and my half, but he's a great addition to the name, to the brand. And it's to go and do a car start to finish on my own is very daunting now, very much so.
Do you ever disagree on the level of standard? Is that something is that ever an issue?
I think it's harder for Terry because sometimes with a minor paint correction, it's a introduction to paint correction, 70 to 80% defect removal. So where do you draw the line? And we're perfectionists. So the white detail, okay, there's maybe limitations in the severity of the scratch and paint thickness, so we have to step away. But a minor correction, sometimes the paint might be particularly hard or the severity of the defects. The 2-stage cut to refine on paper is what the customer's paying for, but if it's not at that 70, 80%, we keep going a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And Terry, is this enough? Is that enough? I don't know. I don't know myself. But the minor correction is we go over and above all the time. So the last minor correction, it was the L200 pickup truck, a 15-year-old pickup truck, and that's going to be the next feature variety vlog. We did about 3 cuts per panel. So on paper, minor correction, cut, refine, it needed more. It needed much more. But if there's a budget involved, then you have to be sort of, okay, well, we're only being paid for this amount of time. It's difficult. I'm a fool. We do too much.
That's a great question, and one really relevant in the professional detailing world. Who else has got a question? Here we are.
Hi Jim, I think you've explained and illustrated quite nicely how YouTube makes your business path look like a very straight line to A to B. And you've also shown that actually it's a very squiggly line that goes backwards and forwards.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you look back over your career that you've had so far, is there anything that you would look back on and think, if I could do it all again, I would do that slightly differently? If I could run it all again, is there anything that you would change?
I wouldn't have been on my own for so long. That was, and Terry's always said, goodness knows how you've done this on your own for 10 years. And it is a lonely place, as a lot of the guys here will know. I would have started the YouTube earlier. So on the first episode, I remember someone's just reminded me, I slid into the camera, I said, Instagram done, Facebook done, trying something new, YouTube. And then here we are, 3 years later. What has been difficult is product selection. There's that much out there. The market here is full of, it's a saturated market now of the same stuff in the most part. So we're using what we stick to. So maybe rather than 3-4 years ago, experiment and try and test, just stick to what works, stick to what's best for us. And I know a lot of the guys now are using perhaps the same thing because you can manipulate what you're good with to different paint finishes. There's probably a lot I'd change, really, thinking about it. Yeah.
And another one from here.
Hi, Jim. Ollie.
Hi, Ollie.
Bit of a question going from sort of the amateur side of it turning into a business. Is there a particular product that you've started using that's been a bit of a revelation for you going into that environment?
I was asked this earlier on, actually. It was not so much a product, but an accessory. Obviously, you've seen the Rad Company guys' involvement on the channel. I was with them on Wednesday, we had a nice meal. But using their E365 was, it sounds daft, but for the polish and removal, the residue stage, it was a big, okay, these are great. I still use the yellow ones that we all know for certain tasks. But the issues I was having with the yellow ones at that polishing stage have been completely eliminated by the Rad Company towels. I could go on about the Rad Company for a long time. Some of the hardware, the Big Boy Blower Pro vehicle blower, perhaps many people haven't got a vehicle blower yet, but that's up there, is a very high quality machine. Wish I got one a lot sooner.
So good for a couple more questions?
Couple more, yeah.
Marvellous, okie dokie. 2 more questions. Oh, back here.
Hi, it's Carl here from Goldenberg Detail.
Hi, Carl.
Hi, Jim. First question, what's your favorite paintboard to work on, the easiest one? And the second one, what's the most difficult?
There we go, good question. Okay.
And what's your favorite once the polish? What's favorite product to be the one
sometimes it's a surprise, something that should be on paper or by the book. A nightmare sometimes can respond completely differently. So we use very little pads and very little polishes. We use very similar stuff all the time. We just finished the Bentley Continental GT Speed, which was just beautiful to work with. The paint responded very well. Obviously they're all sanded and flatted at the factory, so they're nice and level, the texture's not there. and we just did the extra refining. It went well, but then other cars, some of the Porsches, sticky paint on basalt black Porsche, the combinations that we'll use, throw a hissy fit, and then we have to sort of step back and think, okay, great, well, we can carry on, persevere and struggle, or we can change things up a bit. But every car is a journey. Every car has its own little gremlins, and having a variety of machines to have options with. One of the biggest things the last 2-3 years for me, since having the hybrid, is how important it is to have the options available. So even if it's hand polishing, the hybrid 1-inch, 2-inch, 3, 5 and 6, you need, if you're going to detail a car, it's not possible with the one pad. The worst paint finish, flat colours, flat black. There was an episode on a 928 Porsche which battled us terribly. It was one of the European cars at Centre Cross, and it knocked me for 6. It was a battle on that. No matter how hard you try, sometimes they're just against you. But in the end, the results were there. We got there in the end.
How do you find managing customers' expectations?
Well, I've kind of set the standard already with the videos because they know what to expect on sort of the films. We go to the point where if we're happy, hopefully the customer's happy. That's why we always go over and above. And if there's an issue in the week, I'll record it on my phone, I'll send it to them on WhatsApp, and I'll keep them updated during the week as well. So if it's a full white detail booking, for their own interest, like if you send your car to Vauxhall for a service, you'll get a video back saying your tyre tread's low, and you'll get an update of the work as it happens. We do that, and we keep them in the story. If there's any problems, if we discover any dent repairs or a dent that needs repairing, expectations are most of the time, all of the time, people are wowed. People are really really impressed. It's our expectations that we just try to get every car, regardless of what we're being paid, to a level where the white detail is, but not every car is being paid for that booking.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Jim. I think we can have a round of applause for Jim.
Thank you. I'm good, yeah.
And I'm sure everybody is subscribed. If not, they very much should be subscribed to your channel.
Thank you. Yep.
And I think you're going to be making some of this available online as well, potentially in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. There's various cameras rigged up. I'll sit through it and hopefully get a live, a feed on my own channel. But WhiteDetails on Instagram, YouTube, all the information's there, behind the scenes on Instagram, if you want to learn more, if you don't already. But thank you everyone for your support.
Thank you very much, and let's get up to 100,000 so that
Jerry can get a pay rise.
Brilliant. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, mate.
Thank you. Really, really, really good.
You should have it. Thank you.